little problem. And if you want to get the second digit,
Thank you so much, Sparky. Understand you.
all right. Thank you, everybody. I think we're right on time. So this is right. I see two answers right here. One solution is that we could use str function. I'm going to go back here. Another is that you can actually create a string using the single or double quotes. So this will be another reminder that we cannot take a substring from an integer or numerical data type. All right, thanks everybody for this data types. This is actually for variable and assignment section. So we're going to move on to our next section about data types and type conversion. We're going to talk about for about 15 minutes, and then we're going to take a little break for another 15 minutes, and then we're going to come back to complete this data types and type conversion section. All right, any questions? Excellent. So now I would like to move back to my notebook session. We're going to move on to another session. So I'm going to change my markdown, and this will be another session about data types and type conversion. So basically, each variable, they will have a specific type. There are mainly, we could say, three types. Integer, that represents positive or negative whole numbers, like 3 or -5, 112. Another type is called a floating point, called a float. That represent real numbers, like 3 and 1400s, or -2.5. And the last one is character string type, which you already saw that it's usually called a string or text, and they could be created in single quotes or double quotes. And if you want to print the single quotes and double quotes, they are not printed. So I'm going to create a little markdown briefly. Integer type. Another type is called floating point. And lastly will be the character string. All right. So the question is, first question, how do we check on the type for a specific variable? or specific value. For let's say we have a value 52. This should be an integer. In Python, we could use type function to check this value, its type. So if you print, this is another layer of function after the type. So essentially, we use type function to check on this, the value, the type of this value called 52, and then we are going to print our result. If you run this line of code, it will return you, I guess you will all know the result, integer type. So that will give you the class called integer type. So I guess there's a little exercise in the in our notebook. I'm going to print. All right. So the little challenge question is for you to check on another value called a, like earlier we have created another value. Go back. If you would like to check on another value, for example, 3 and 1400ths, like a, so we could use type function to check on the type of this this variable called a. So we can try that. Print type, and then we feeding our variable name there. Check on a. So this one says name a is not defined. That means we need to rerun everything we had earlier. Okay, so this is an error message. It will not run through if you have an error. Let's try it again. Clear up our error message earlier. All right. So now you can see that this type A will be considered as a floating point. This will be our second type. So if we have created another one called a fitness is equal to average, and then we print the type for our fitness. And then this will return us a string type. So types control what operations can be performed on a given value. For example, for string type, we cannot subtract it. So if you run print 5 subtract 3, because we all know that 5 and 3, they're both integer type. So if you're running 5 subtract 3, that's okay, because 5 and 3 are both integer type. So if we run this, we'll get 2. But on the other hand, if you print 2 strings on a subtraction operator, you will have error message. For example, if you want to print hello and then you would like to exclude H, this will give you an error message. It will say unsupported operand type because string does not support subtraction. So I'm going to delete this error message, and I'm going to make a little note here called strings support. What are the operations strings can support? It could support adding, and it will support asterisk. For example, let's do one example, and we're going to finish after this little string session about operation on strings. We're going to take a break at 10:30. So, for example, if we got the person's full name, earlier we talked about this person's first name, that's Mud. And now we would like to add a little space that indicate the first name. Add a space. Then we're going to add this person's last name. Let's say the last name is Wash. And if you would like to print the full name, we could do print function, print our full name. And you can see that this person's first name and the space and last name will be nicely printed. So you can see string support adding. Adding is kind of like a concatenate the characters. So the next one, we can do multiplying a string by an integer will create a new string that consists of that character string repeated n times. So for example, if we would like a space repeated, or we would like equal sign to be repeated, we could use this called a multiply asterisk. So I'm going to show you separator. That is going to be using an equal sign, but I would like it to be repeated 10 times. So I multiply by 10. And now if you print separator, you are going to find out this equal sign will be repeated for 10 times. All right, let's run this chunk, and then you can see that this equal sign have been repeated for 10 times. Lastly, earlier we talked about len function. Right here. So for string, it has a length, but numbers don't. So if you use length len on a number, it will give you an error. But if you use len on a string, that will return you the length or the number of characters in a string. So if we would like to create the length of a full name, we could use our en function. And because we have already created this person's full name, we can see that it has 5 plus 1 plus another 5, and that should return you the number 11. All right, I think it's time for us to take a little break. And I just mentioned numbers don't have a length. We're going to take about 15 minutes break. And we're going to come back and finish this session about data types and type conversion. So any questions?
Hey, Jane, just checking, should we restart at 10:45?
Yes,
Okay,
yes, we restart at 10:45 and come back to finish our session about data types and type conversion.
sounds excellent. And hand it back, Jane.
All right, thanks to everyone for coming back. I'm going to start to share my screen. All right, so before we talk about this session is about data types and type conversion. Let me minimize my little window. So there are mainly three types of data: integer, floating point, and string. We talk about strings support adding and multiply. If you want to repeat a string for multiple times, you can use asterisk. If you want to concatenate